So I think we are live. Hi, everyone. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Klaus. So let's hold on a couple of minutes to let people join the webinar. So there's going to be a little bit of an awkward silence. In the meantime, I'll use this to introduce myself already. So I'm Simon. I'm the founder of Stampix. Super excited about this webinar. We're going to talk about all things airline loyalty, the future of travel. And it's commonly known that retail may have invented loyalty programs. It were really the airlines who, in the 80s, turned it into a data-driven, profitable business, which became the benchmark for many loyalty programs. And it's been cool to see in the registrations that a lot of people from across a variety of industries are showing up for this webinar. So there's obviously your airlines themselves, the hospitality sector, the travel, but also FMCG. Insurance people taking an interest in what you guys have to say. So we're looking forward to diving in. We have two fantastic guests, Andrew and Klaus. I'm going to give you guys a minute soon, but I want to share a few slides to set the stage first, if that's okay. So, right. So I'm Simon. I'm founder of Stampix. We're bringing joy to loyalty programs with personal photos, as you can see on the picture. We work with a variety of brands, which you'll see on the next slide. And obviously the fit with the travel industry and the airlines is big because printed photos, which is what we do, are able to create an emotional connection. And what do we do when we go on holiday? We take pictures. We take a lot of pictures. We want to cherish to those memories. So it's a relevant emotional territory for many of these brands. I want to share two quick stats from this summer. So on average, the average adult takes 14 selfies a day during holiday, so quite a lot. And 47% of our phone usage during holiday is spent on all things related photos. So not printing, but just editing, sharing on Instagram. So that comes to show that it's a very relevant space and we care a lot about these photos. And we believe at Stampix that a good loyalty program manages to combine tangible value with emotional connections. So enough about Stampix and photos. Quickly wanted to bridge to Qantas and Miles & More. We work with both brands on different use cases. So with Miles & More, we're super excited just a few months ago to kick off with a welcome home proposition after the community award flight to Mallorca. So quite a great moment for all these members. And we want to, of course, turn those moments into everlasting memories with Prince. And with Qantas, Frequent Flyer, we've been working for a few years already as a points for Prince proposition combined with some customer love initiatives. So let's have a quick look at the agenda. Not going to go over these points, but you can see we're going to touch on different areas, bringing joy, instant gratification. And I think it's a great moment now for Klaus and Andrew to introduce themselves. So I'm going to pass over to Andrew.
Hi, Simon. Hi, Klaus. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. So I'm Andrew from Qantas Frequent Flyer. So greetings from sunny Sydney, Australia. And I've been with Qantas now for about 8 years, 4 years in the loyalty area and 4 years with the airline. And previously I was with TripAdvisor and the GDS. And yeah, great to be speaking with everybody today. And thanks for having us.
Excellent. Klaus, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome everyone. It's good to see. I see some people joining here on the right hand side. Some very familiar faces. Some very new. My name is Klaus. I'm in the loyalty industry for almost 20 years now. Started my career at Payback Group in Munich with the coalition program Payback. Then moved over to a company called Loyalty Partner Solutions, basically a software provider for big loyalty programs. And with that, was allowed to move over to Miles & More 10 years ago. Started in a strategy role, and now I'm responsible for what we call award program development. So basically everything around accruing and redeeming miles for flights, and let's say finding and developing new features of our award program.
Thanks for that. And just a quick note, so I know free speech is under pressure in many areas of the world, but we value free speech here. The opinions by Andrew and Klaus are entirely their own and not necessarily reflect the companies. The goal is just to have an open conversation about these interesting topics. Couple of housekeeping rules. So there is a chat room which you've probably observed on the right-hand side. Feel free to engage, ask some questions in there. I have Gabrielle right in front of me for my team who's keeping an eye and will notify me if we can squeeze them in near the end. The session is also being recorded and will be shared with those who opted in during the process. And I think at 2 points, there will be a little poll with a simple question just to engage the audience. We've got, like I said, a lot of experts from different industries, so it's a great way to capture those insights. So with that, let's kick off. Unique opportunity with two very diverse programs in the same space, and we had a look at them before and just wanted to share with you these facts and figures about the programs, different regions, different history, with a lot of partnerships. And so maybe I'll let Klaus go first on this one. Klaus, can you give us some update on the evolution of the program, recent partnerships, or other relevant information?
Yes, sure. I think the brand itself is pretty well known, right? We are the loyalty program of the Lufthansa Group Airlines. So I think a rather special setup where the program brand is aiming for creating loyalty for all the Lufthansa Group airlines. I think I've seen some people from IAG Loyalty joining. I think that's the, let's say, comparable logic. So as a program, we're really trying to loyalize our members, not only to our program and our ecosystem, but all the airlines of the Lufthansa Group with their diverse customer propositions. Launched in 1993, I now see that Qantas is even older than us. I didn't know that. With just about 36 million members in 194 countries. So pretty global span, but to be honest, driven by our airlines, mainly focused on Central Europe, with Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Belgium, and a strong US community. Partner network mainly focused on, besides the Lufthansa Group airlines, of course, our Star Alliance partners, our joint venture partners are also very important to us. And over the years, then, let's say, typically driving a partner ecosystem, starting in travel, right, with hotels, car rentals, but over the last, I would say, 10 years, really trying to get to a more, let's say, multi-partner partnership model, with the necessity to focus on our group airlines, right? We will never be a neutral coalition, as it was in my previous role at Payback, for example. We will always focus on driving loyalty for our Lufthansa Group airlines, but it's from a member perspective really important for us to have a strong partner network from diverse industries. I think there are 3 big partnership announcements, let's say this September, that really excites us, and I think it also gives you a good idea on where we stand as a program today and where we are moving, right? Most of you have heard about ITA joining the Lufthansa Group at some point. We are very proud that we will become ITA's solely loyalty program as well. So ITA decided to use us as their single loyalty program, which gives us, let's say, internally a very strong position of still being the only loyalty program in the Lufthansa Group. Then you've probably read about our strategic partnership with Marriott Bonvoy that we just announced. I think it's more than, let's say, the typical earn and burn partnerships that you usually see between airlines and hotel chains. It really drives status. It will enable our members to reach their airline status more quickly, and at the same time they benefit from exclusive advantages at Bonvoy as well. So really, let's say, new idea of an old industry partnership, really diving into a more strategic partnership. And last but not least, last week we announced that by October 1st, Deutsche Bank will be our new credit card partner in Germany. And that's also more to us than a pure co-brand credit card play, right? It's not only about changing the bank. It's really for us to understand that payment is our way to secure daily relevance, right? We really want to become more relevant to our members outside the core travel chain. And we think with payment, this is one of our key initiatives to be even closer to our members, to be closer at the actual points of sale. So I'm really excited about this partnership as well. And so I think those three new partnerships give you an idea about, let's say, the three key pillars that we will rely on today, but also will focus on tomorrow.
Well, congratulations, Klaus. That's exciting news. Especially ITA, I think, was pending for a while. So glad to hear it happen.
Yes.
Andrew, maybe you can give us a similar overview, some recent evolutions, especially when it comes to partnerships.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So just maybe a little bit of background about Qantas. So we have about 17 million members in the program, and you probably know Qantas Frequent Flyer. Frequent Flyer is the loyalty program for Qantas Airways and also our low-cost subsidiary Jetstar. So maybe a little bit simpler than Klaus's European Union of Airlines. It is the program for Qantas. I think that's when we talk about loyalty in the Qantas perspective, it's not just the Frequent Flyer program, it is this ecosystem of loyalty that we have. So when we talk about this ecosystem, this includes Qantas Hotels and Holidays, which is a division of Qantas loyalty. This is the ability to earn and use points for hotels. We have Qantas Marketplace. This is 20,000 products, 900 brands that you're able to both earn and burn your points. Qantas Wine, Qantas Financial Services, including all of our points earning partnerships on cards. Qantas Health Insurance, that you're able to get points on mortgages and health insurance. And Qantas Business Rewards, which is our loyalty program for SMEs. So really, Qantas has this this coalition approach to loyalty in order to be able to be relevant to our members, not just when flying, but because we ultimately see ourselves as a lifestyle program, that we were able to interact with our customers and they are able to earn points on a daily basis. So for example, we have a long established relationship with Woolworths, which is our leading supermarket here, for points earned, BP for petrol, partnerships in home energy, solar panels, housewares, streaming services, you're able to collect your points. Probably a little bit later on, I'll talk a little bit about Ticket Tech. This is probably one of our most successful recent partnerships. And this is a partner that I manage through our entertainment vertical. And this has been highly complementary to the program because entertainment is very, very similar to, or very, very contextual to our lifestyle program. Most recent partnerships that we've announced or changes is a partnership with David Jones. David Jones is a leading luxury department store here in Australia where you're able to both earn and burn points. We've also announced Qantas Pay, relaunched it. This is our points earning debit card for both domestic and international use. So always lots of things going on.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And as well, congratulations with the recent evolutions. You're broadening up the ecosystem both, that's clear. And I think there's always some sort of balance between value to the company and value to the customer. So let's talk a little bit more about that. How do because loyalty is, at the end of the day, it's a tough business with a lot of competition, thin margins. So let's talk a little bit on balancing meaningful value, driving engagement in the competitive landscape that you both are in. So maybe Andrew, you can go first on this one as well.
Sure. So value is super important. I didn't really introduce myself at the beginning. I looked specifically after redemptions and rewards, because the reality is that you're not going to go and earn points and do all of these things in a program unless you clearly see a pathway to get a reward. So we're always got to keep our minds fixed, and that there's a reward that a member is looking for. So when we talk about rewards, just to kind of give you an idea of volume, rewards last financial year, there were 185 billion points burned. And this is a measure of value. On a daily basis, there's about 15,000 reward seats that are booked every day on Qantas or our partners. And this is the kind of things that we're looking out for in terms of metrics for value is, are people actually redeeming our rewards? And when we do things like the most recent partnership we announced with Hawaiian Airlines, this is points redemption on somebody to a very, very popular destination, to Hawaii, for Australians. And that's very, very valuable to add value that way. And that's part of the 20 million reward seats that are already out there. So, engagement is something that it's very always top of mind. And, some other stats are, when we look at the retail partnerships that I've alluded to, the number of points that have been earned from retail partnerships have doubled in the last couple of years, and they will probably double again by 2030. And I think that when you have this diversification of earned coming in, there's also an expectation of being able to use your points on more and different things as well. So we really want to be able to provide value by providing options to our members. I alluded a little bit to Ticketek before. So Ticketek, for those who are not familiar with Ticketek, is the Australian equivalent of Ticketmaster, and they have about 20,000 events per year. And our members are able to use their points on Ticketek. And we've had about 250,000, just a little bit over a year, members using their points on Ticketek. And this is a very, very contextual reward that's part of the program, and our way of actually adding more value to a member by being able to do things that are just not necessarily on vacation, because your average person might only have time to travel once or twice per year. So we want to be able to provide value on a more frequent basis to be able to be part of a member's lifestyle, not just for their travel.
That makes sense. Klaus, can you share your perspective at Miles & More? Is it similar?
I think it's very similar with the notion of, I think Qantas has been and is a very strong lifestyle brand in Australia, right? We have been and are always looking into Qantas' direction when it comes to new fields of business and loyalty, trying out new partnerships. I think it's a very bold company, being a huge airline group, but still being bold. I wouldn't put us on that same stage. I think we are a little bit more conservative, and we are competing in a different market, right? Especially within Germany, you do have very strong coalition programs already that we are also cooperating with. So with Payback, for example, we have a conversion partnership, so you can convert the Payback points that you earned on daily shopping, etc., into our program, because I still believe with all new partnerships arising, etc., this flight award is still, let's say, the core value proposition that programs like ours have, and that customers still are looking to somehow get, right? If they want to get that upgrade, they want to get that free flight. To give you a little bit of an idea on that, it's still around 3/4 of our redemptions go into air awards. So I am totally with Andrew, especially on the accrual side. it's about engaging members on a daily basis, giving them different options. I think as of today, we are a little bit more conservative or smaller in our focus than Qantas. So we wouldn't say we are travel focused, but we are mobility focused. Let me phrase it that way. And of course, we need to find new ways of engaging on the redemption side as well, because at least the people from the airline industry know that there's availability issues, blah, blah, blah. But that flight award is really attractive. You have different options, being it mixed payment with miles and cash, being it other stuff like concert tickets. I think that's a great partnership that Qantas is doing, not only on the accrual side, but also as a potential redemption option. So I think you always have to look at both sides of the equation and to engage members on both ends. To drive at the very end of the day, to drive value also to our airlines, right? That's also something that we need to ensure that our airlines, not only from a financial perspective, but more from an engagement and loyalty perspective. This is, let's say, the core proposition that we are presenting to our airlines is you will have more touch points with that customer than him flying once or twice a year with you.
Yeah, and I want to use that as a little segue to look at it from the customer's perspective, because at the end of the day, you're not only competing with other airlines for the attention of the customer or the member, it's also against other loyalty programs. So we see a trend that customers nowadays are expecting instant gratification more and more. How do your programs, well, first of all, do you acknowledge that trend as well? And do you see that's something real? And how do your programs deal with that? So maybe, Andrew, you can give us a couple of examples here.
Yeah, instant gratification, that's a really good, it's a good buzzword and it's a good challenge, I guess you can say. Maybe I might take a middle ground of earlier gratification. So maybe if I use the Stampix example, Stampix has been our experiment into something that we're calling micro redemption, where, for example, you're on vacation, you take some photos and you want to send a postcard to grandma with the photo of you and the selfie. That's 500 points, and 500 points is very, very easy to achieve. You probably earn 10 times that amount flying to whatever destination that you're going to. So it is a very, very early reward, and as a way to be able to engage in the program and to get something out of it very quickly. For 1,000 points, I think that we have for points for about 10 photos that you can get printed, either on your way home or once you got home. And so we're experimenting with this micro redemption where we're able to have contextual rewards. Contextual rewards are those that are considered to be higher value. So if it's just some random thing, it's probably not going to be perceived to actually be very valuable. But if it's contextual to travel and it makes sense that it's coming from our frequent flyer program, the perception of value is higher. So we're looking at different rewards at these types of levels that members are able to get just as something a little bit smaller, but a lot earlier. Another larger example is earlier this year, we reduced the number of points required on Jetstar. So you can have I think it's Sydney to Melbourne, it's only 5,700 points. And that really makes it one of the cheapest, the cheapest redemption in Australia. And then of course you got to pay a little bit of taxes. But this is specifically to engage younger members as well, especially as they might be attracted to the Jetstar brand. So I guess it's something kind of an earlier gratification rather than instant. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I think it's always something that we have to keep in mind, because when we talk about, for any loyalty program, a younger demographic, we have to probably safely assume that they're not going to have the patience to play the long game that a lot of our traditional loyalty programs have. So it's this constant challenge there of how can we make rewards faster, but potentially how can we make the program simpler. it's a double-edged sword when we talk about instant gratification, because a program that is able to instantly gratify is probably a program that is cheap and easy and fast, and those aspects probably don't warrant a lot of investment in time or provide the emotional connection to keep on engaging with the program. So that's a bit of a downfall with instant gratification, and it's something that traditional programs probably have to be actually quite cautious about, because when you start to introduce this instantness, this is when you can really deteriorate the brand and also the ultimate reward that we're trying to give. So there's probably some caution in that as well.
Yeah, great point. There's a tension, and I like that term of early gratification. Klaus, you guys also do some things to welcome members first of all, and then to instantly gratify them.
Exactly. I think, Andrew put it perfectly, right? I think that's exactly the challenge that especially legacy programs like ours in our industries are facing. We will never be, and to be honest, I am convinced we shouldn't be only instantly gratifying, right? It's a lot about long-term loyalty. Status plays a big role for us, right? So really connecting to a brand on a long-term basis is something that is at the core of our proposition. But we have to acknowledge that especially with younger audiences, we have to somehow act upon that. I think I already mentioned that example in other terms. Cash and miles can be one of those early gratification moments, right? You can use a small amount of miles to deduct it from your cash payment, being it in food and beverage on board, being it at the airport. So I think that micro redemption or earlier redemption opportunities with miles is one side of the equation. But what we are starting to look into, and where Stampix and Miles & More started to discuss, is something beyond currency, right? Isn't there ways of giving our members things, instant rewards at specific moments in time that can also act on making them more loyal to our brand, right? So the use case that Simon quickly touched upon was with our community award flight. We would give our members a free voucher to print their holiday pictures that they experienced with us, to actually have something physical in their hand that reminds them of that specific travel. And we have a little Miles & More logo on that as well. So hopefully they connect that with us as well. Another example for, let's say, an enrollment benefit with our program is the in-flight entertainment Wi-Fi at Lufthansa Group. But to be very open here, that's also a challenge, right? We saw a spike of enrollments at that specific point, but when we introduced it, but there's a challenge of actually activating those people, right? Because they enroll because they get that Wi-Fi, and then you really have to work with them on how to engage them in the program. So it's always a fine balance. I think it's it helps you drive the numbers, especially those enrollment benefits, but it also comes with a challenge on, let's say, long-term engagement. And I mean, regardless of, let's say, program features, I think it's also a question of your digital strategy, right? Your digital channels, how those come into play. Because if you look at the gaming, etc., there's a lot of apps that do a really good job in instantly rewarding in certain aspects, and maybe we can learn from those industries as well to have some gamification mechanics built into our programs to help us engage those younger audiences.
Sorry, I was on mute still. And so that's also a great moment, I think, to do the poll on this topic. So normally should be appearing on your screen. The only way to make it remove is to participate. Oh no, they added a skip button, so you can skip. But basically what we want to see here is looking at it from the customer's perspective again. What do you think motivates them more? Is it fast and easy, or is it saving up for that larger reward? So on to the next question, which is on earning and redeeming. So first I want to get your take on what's really the moment of truth. Is it that redemption? Is it when people start earning and are accumulating? What are some of the ways that your program also goes beyond? And we touched on it just with a few examples already, but some other initiatives to make loyalty more emotional, joyful, and part of everyday day life. Andrew, maybe you can give us your take.
Sure. I might start by saying, I think that we're really lucky in the travel space that the rewards that we give are naturally very emotional and very satisfying. I mean, especially all of us can probably relate to the love of travel. It is an emotional, it's experiential, and it is something that people will invest the time in. Where a lot of loyalty programs, the free coffee at the end of your 10th coffee, it's a simple program, but people don't get excited about it. And so we want to be able to find more rewards that are contextual to what we have for travel. So I'll talk a little bit about entertainment, because this has been my baby at Frequent Flyer. We see entertainment to be very, very complementary to travel, in the sense that you might have to travel there, you might not, but it's really part of your lifestyle, and it's part of a lifestyle that could have just as much emotion and gratification as travel itself. So just like the highs of being on vacation, you might experience those highs on a monthly basis, being in the front row of your favorite artist and being able to have all the energy from the crowd, and just being able to see live entertainment is such a great experience. So when we started to work in this area, we wanted to be able to do something quite special, but also something quite scalable as well. So from a BAU perspective, what we have is that we have a very good partnership with Ticketek. And like I mentioned, they have about 20,000 events per year. So our members are able to use their points, and typically they are paying for the vast majority of their experience using points. So one could say that that emotional event was thanks to Qantas in some part. To kind of amp that up and step it up a little bit more, than it's not just a boring, use points as a currency. We've also been experimenting with getting into pre-sales. So pre-sales, we have many other countries, there's acts that come to the country and they are heavily anticipated. They often sell out very quickly, or the best tickets sell out quickly, or you're not able to get it in your first city of choice. So what we've been experimenting with is this kind of strategy that I call exclusivity at scale, that we're able to offer our members the ability to have pre-sale access before they go out to the general public. This year, we've done Ricky Martin, Lenny Kravitz, the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, Wrexham came to Australia and New Zealand for the first time. And there's a big following because the Ryan Reynolds show, and a lot of excitement there. And we're able to help our members get tickets first. And that is an emotional connection. And it's magic that we're injecting into a program as frequently as possible, because I voted in the poll large rewards after a long period of time. And the thing is that that's maybe the intention. Looks like, I'm surprised at how many looks like it's smaller rewards. Sorry, I don't mean to steal your thunder when the poll comes, but it's interesting because when you have to have the patience and the dedication for a long period. But the thing is that we feel that you must get a reward somewhere along the way, because you can get bored and check out and forget the reason why you're doing it. So especially having an emotional reward is really important, and it's difficult to find them and difficult to be able to do them at scale. Entertainment has been a real magical point for us. So that's just one example.
I think that's very clever, connecting you with the emotions of the artists that you love. Klaus, can you build on that?
Yeah, I mean, I told Andrew before, I really envy him for this type of partnership. I think the Europeans in that call can relate that we have a very strong player in that industry in Europe that is not as easy to work with as we wanted to. But I think this is just Andrew said it perfectly, right? It's about those emotions. You can quite easily build on that in a very small scale, right? We are doing lots of our status member events, etc., are highly emotional. We show them our A380 halls, etc. It's really great, but it's not scalable, right? And that's exactly the point that I think everyone is looking for. How can you scale this emotional reward apart from the redemption seat? I think Accor does it really great with a similar proposition as Qantas. That's really someone that you can look at. I think we still are looking for ways to do that. So I think that's one of our, let's say, strategic initiatives, because it gives you the opportunity to really build a community within your program, right? We are doing that with our community award flights, or trying to do that. So these are basically flights to very attractive destinations that are solely sold to program members. And I think IAG does it also very well. I think with a little different focus, right? At least from the outside, I would say there it is more a redemption-driven case where it's more about getting a great deal, getting availability. And we are trying to phrase that or position that a little more emotional with lots of events around it. We have a big gate event when people come. Now when we're flying to Cape Town, there's going to be a big program with our Help Alliance partnership. So basically we are with our members opening up a children's hospital in South Africa. So I think those are things that help you drive emotions, that miles donation can be something, our sustainability play can also be something. But to be very transparent, we didn't find a sweet spot as Qantas did, with a really scalable partnership that's really focusing on a very broad member base. Because I think it's easier to do it for, let's say, special, being it status members, being it a special interest community, but really finding something that is scalable for your whole program. That's the sweet spot that everyone should be looking for.
Yes. So next I want to talk about personalization and omnichannel. And I saw just a question coming in from Trudy, which I think is a great one to kick this off. So I'll read it out loud here. So how can companies address the digital customer experience for younger audiences to ensure consistency when working with third parties? So this is about the connected traveler nowadays. Klaus, back to you. How do you guys deal with that?
Not 100% sure what Trudy means with third parties. So for us, it's really important to control is a big word, but to control as much as possible from the customer experience side. So for example, within our app, we would be very cautious on how do we present partners, which partners are we actually onboarding. And when it comes to, let's say, a loyalty proposition in a partner's channel, we are also very cautious. We are using a separate, let's say, a login functionality. So, okay, third parties as in partnership. So if I would set up a partnership like the one with Ticket Tech, I think for us, it would be very important to make that happen on our own channels, right? Because we are absolutely sure today, but even more so tomorrow, we need to have control of that digital channel. And I personally am convinced that the mobile phone, the mobile app is the main focus of tomorrow's channel. So whenever I would set up a partnership, at least on the long term, I would try to have as much as possible within our own control, right? Stampix could also be an example on that one. At least we need to have a co-brand. We need to have control on how that works, how that looks like, because I think it highly reflects on your program, where it is experienced and how it is experienced, right? I just had a conversation with someone else, event organizer, that used an old logo of ours, and that's something I really think we need to control this digital experience, even if it sometimes means that some partnerships will not work out. With Deutsche Bank, for example, with a new credit card, it was one of our key propositions that the credit card app is built into the Miles & More app, right? Whereas in the past, we had a separate credit card app. I know from a technical standpoint, our techies were not happy about that decision because it drives a lot of complexity, etc. But I'm absolutely convinced that if you do a partnership that is so core to your business, right? With us, the credit card is our play into daily relevance of our program, then we need to have as much control as possible from a digital experience.
Andrew, how about at QFF? I know from being on the partner side, you guys do your homework very well, making sure that everything is covered, but maybe you can explain a bit more.
Yes, actually, that's true, Simon. So you and your team know firsthand how particular we are about privacy and security and so forth. I'm sure we were a giant headache for you, but it's something that we take very, very seriously. So if I were to take the ticket tech example, Trudy, the way that we do it is that, similar to Klaus, we have very, very strict brand guidelines and how the brand is referenced, how points are referenced, and then we can have as much of a consistent experience as possible between our own sites and on partner sites. When it actually comes down to the transaction and the interface, it is the Qantas experience happening in a partner channel. So we call it a widget. That's probably not a very good technical term, but it is embedded into the Ticket Tech website. That is the same widget that appears in many other partners, so that the login is a Qantas login, the two-factor authentication is a Qantas process, and all the passwords and your account balance that ends up showing is all the same that you'd see on the Qantas site, exported or loaned to the partner website in order for that transaction to happen and for our members to feel secure in doing so. So that is what reliably powers redemptions across almost all of our partners. There is that balance to be met where we want transactions to happen in our channels, but at the end of the day, when you're shopping for tickets, you're not coming to an entertainment ticket, you're not on the Qantas site, you are on the Ticket Tech site. So that's where a customer would expect, and we don't want to create this roundabout way to try to redeem your points. We want to try to make it as frictionless as possible. So that has worked quite well for us, and how we continue to work with other partners, including ways to do point of sale, like as in a point of sale payment in an in-store setting. And those are developments that we're working on as well.
All right, great examples. Some more questions pending, and we'll touch on that later. But let's look at it from the customer's perspective in their own customer journey for a second. And we have another poll coming up, touching on those moments that we can use as a brand to leverage emotional connection. So I'm curious to hear your take. Which of these moments, if you had to pick one, that you think is still largely untapped by travel brands or airlines? to really create those emotional moments. Curious about that, Paul. All right, we're 15 minutes from the end. I want to leave some time for questions, so maybe it's good timing now to have the blue sky question. Guys, let's say we have a green field, a blank canvas, and we can design the perfect loyalty program for travel. What would be the key pillars? Which emotional components would you add? Klaus, maybe you can kick us off.
You can imagine how hard that is for me, because I mean, we are a lot, but we are not greenfield. But I think we touched upon most of it, right? I think in all terms that we discussed, but also in all terms of program proposition in general, it highly depends on the market and the brands that you are working for, right? With the Lufthansa Group, we have a very German, very European, very some would call us old school conservative, right? I think it's a totally different setting than if you work for a young lifestyle brand. But in general, I would argue it's almost never an either or, right? It's not about instant gratification only. It's not about air redemption only. It's not about emotional loyalty only or commercial value on the other side. I think whenever people phrase those questions that way, it's really hard, right? I would say it's a fine balance. I would probably start to be a little bit more extreme on one of the ends, and then try to work with my members, right? To really listen to members. I think that's also something that especially self-confident brands like ours need to understand, that it's not about what we think is best for our members, but we can just ask them what they feel like. I think especially around the latest developments, it was a lot about listening to our members as well. We're starting to look into different directions, right? I told you already that Qantas is one of our benchmarks in the airline industry, because they are looking at things differently than we do. But also we are starting to try things out, right? You have probably seen our UpTrip app, where loyalty has a totally different play, right? We're collecting boarding passes and convert them into collectible cards, right? It's totally different than our program, but it does make sense for a special audience. So I think the really blue sky is not my home turf, but I would suggest to really look into your surrounding, into your brand that you are working for, and then start in the middle and work your way up to the top.
Yeah, great. We see some questions coming in, mainly for Andrew from Australian side. But Klaus, let me just ask an additional question on UpTrip. What drove the decision on making it a separate app? Because earlier you mentioned you wanted to have control and bring it as much together. Is that because it was a pilot, really? Or is it just technically easier? What was the key driver?
I would say our conservatism was the main driver. I think we are very cautious in everything that dilutes our, let's say, core proposition. I personally and my team, we were totally convinced that this will work with the whole, let's say, the whole member base. But there were a lot of people, and I think it's a naming question, to be honest, that the idea was brought up under the umbrella of gamification, right? That's another buzzword that a lot of us use every other day. And especially in a surrounding like the Lufthansa Group, the typical airline manager, when he hears gamification, he thinks of small children in the airplane, right? He thinks about giving out toys, whatever. So I think maybe that was our initial problem, that we phrased it under gamification. But to be honest, it now helped us to actually to connect those worlds, because you can log into Uptrip with your Miles & More credentials as well. So we can see that, yes, we are driving a new audience as well, but we're also activating our core member base. And that's the proposition that we were looking for. And I would hope that in the near future, Uptrip won't be a separate app anymore.
Just FYI, I got on Uptrip through a referral. So that's also a clever dynamic that you guys built in that app, is just making it a no-brainer to invite others and get more cards. So Andrew, before we shift over to you, maybe we can look at the question. So Holly's question here is the number of members which were listed by us. I think these are just the total amount of members that were registered, but feel free to give more nuance if available.
Yeah, it's so Andrew, go
sorry,
ahead. No, go ahead.
I don't really have too much more to add to that, but maybe if I can pick up maybe the following questions, maybe I can add a little bit of value quickly to that for other loyalty programs there. Maybe if I start with the last one from Rebecca, is there anything that we've tested in the micro redemption space that hasn't worked? A difficult question. I would say everything that we try works to a certain degree. The challenge with everything, and this is what I think Klaus and I were talking about a moment ago, is scale. Like let's say, for example, I forget which airline has done this, but we looked at this about creating these kind of surprise flights. And you don't know where you're going, just use your points and everything will be taken care of. Fantastic for customer engagement, but can you do it on an ongoing basis? And so it might be terrific in reactivating dormant members, for example, with all the surprise. It might be terrific from a PR perspective, but can you do it on an ongoing basis that is actually going to move the needle for the majority of the base? And the answer is probably no. So when we try micro redemptions, like there's a lot of people that like the opportunity for photos, but as we know from your own stats, Simon, this really appeals to younger members in particular that are taking the selfies and that are always on their phones. It doesn't necessarily work for the bigger demographic. So I'd say all of these work. It's just how much does it actually move the needle, and is it actually scalable, and can you actually repeat it frequently? But most importantly, is the secret, I really think, is to experiment. We have to be open, just POC everything, proof of concept everything, right? Don't go in with the mindset of, is that actually going to reach scale? You don't know until you actually do it. When we do surveys, there's all these people that say they're interested in doing something, and then when push comes to shove, they don't actually do it. Or when they're asked, they're not interested, when it's actually put in their face and the moment is right, then they do it. And then the only way to actually really tell is to actually give it a try.
Great.
I think I have a good failure for you, Rebecca. So we started to look into onboard Wi-Fi as a redemption. Right? That was when Wi-Fi wasn't as common yet. So we talked a lot about how do you log in there and how do we do that. And it took us years to find a proposition. And when we woke up, everyone else had free Wi-Fi on their airplanes, right? And we were still thinking about it as a micro redemption option. So I think that's on Andrew's point on try things out as quickly as possible. And as I said before, I think we had to be cautious on another term with Wi-Fi, because it was a lot of takeaway effects. So people would just join the program for that specific reasoning. So I think that one hasn't worked, to be honest. In general, I can only second Andrew's thought on try things out. talk to people like Simon, talk to other people that offer micro redemption opportunities. Make sure that the interfacing, the connection is good, because again, if we would do a micro redemption that the customer doesn't see us as a brand, see us as a program related, then it won't work out. So find the right balance of doing it in a not minimum viable way, but reasonably viable way, and then work your way around it. And don't only focus on micro redemption. I think you need that emotional aspect. You need that long-term strategy, and it's not an either or it's not something that devalues a partnership. It just, you need to look at your partnerships from a strategic perspective. Why would you partner with someone like that? And there are very few partners that can deliver everything, right?
Klaus, just the question from Trudy here is, I think, relevant for you because you're in a very competitive market with payback and a lot of loyalty programs and everybody adding new loyalty programs. Do you feel that pressure?
Yes and no. I think we are in a good position from an industry standpoint, right? People will fly, people will travel. If Payback wasn't our partner, I would be afraid of Payback, to be honest, because they just do a very, very good job in strategically looking into different industries, really focus on the top one or two brands. So I think that's a competition that we have to face. In other terms, I don't see loyalty programs as a competition, to be honest. It's more about the airlines do have competitions, right? They do have competitors, and we are more or less one key lever to fight that competition, right? To help ITA in Italy to drive people to their brand, because we make them stick to that brand. The status program is something that is really important on that side as well. So I think that loyalty fatigue, as Trudy is calling it, is definitely something we have to be cautious, right? Especially when setting up new programs, but also when it comes to us, we shouldn't be only focusing on that, let's say, classical loyalty proposition of, oh, by the way, you can earn 8 miles for shopping at wherever, but it's a combination of different things that help you to compete with others.
Andrew, some final thoughts for you, because we're nearing the end of the webinar.
Yeah, I feel really bad for not getting to all the questions because there were some really good questions out there, and I'm sure you guys can find me on LinkedIn if you wanted to follow up on it. I like the question about loyalty fatigue. Maybe if I just close on that. I've had some random conversations with people in the general consumer business that have asked for advice on the loyalty program. And just like everybody feels that they need to have an app, everybody feels that they need to have a loyalty program. And I think that there's probably some caution to be had with that, because I think that it's yet another card to collect and it's yet another email to receive. And I think that the expectations are so high from members that they get something out of their loyalty program. And if there isn't this daily interaction, and if it's just doing one activity per year, you're not going to get the loyalty there. You're not going to get the buy-in. And it's difficult enough to provide value and variety, let alone provide magic. Then the question is, like, what is the point? So that's why I'm always cautious with about, hey, should I get a loyalty program? Well, can you actually make it meaningful? I mean, it doesn't mean something, then you're probably best using your time somewhere else.
Think before you act. Great way to close up, guys. We do have one little thing to mention, which is, first of all, untapped questions and results of the polls will all be compiled in a little white paper, which we'll be sharing with everyone. So that's good to keep all this information fresh. And then last but not least, Klaus and Andrew, thanks for already putting Stampix a little bit in the picture on this webinar. But we do have an opportunity here to, for those who are interested, create some samples. Our teams become really good at it, and you can see an example we made for United Airlines here, and which we ship to them. So if you would like to receive one of those examples where we scan your loyalty program, we make some use cases, you have some fun little brand examples, we can design it, print it, and ship it to your headquarters or your home. So it's just a scan away, and I think we'll also include the link in the follow-up comms. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys very much for all this information and your time. And I'm sure it was valuable to everyone here and the ones that will be tuning in later for the recording.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Have a lovely day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Klaus. Bye, everyone.